Hey friends, my name's Molly. I'm on staff with crew at MSU, and my guess is that we haven't gotten to meet. I haven't gotten to meet very many new people this year, but I want to. I want to get to know you. I wish that I could have you over to my home and we could hang out, but I guess this will have to do for now. We are going to get to talk this week about anxiety. You guys have already heard from other awesome staff about feeling overwhelmed and the importance of relationships and depression. And my journey, my story in life includes anxiety. And I don't know that I would have put that name on it or called it anxiety until fairly recently, but it's really been a big part of my life for a very long time, and even more so in recent years. I think we can all agree that 2020 has not been what we expected it to be. I was actually thinking back on just social media posts that I saw in January or end of December of last year, talking about the hope and the excitement and the anticipation and expectation that we were feeling about 2020. And I'm just laughing, thinking about all the mean things we were saying about 2019. But I include myself in that. I just had a baby in February, so there was so much to look forward to and be excited about 2020 and the beginning of the year. And I had a baby in February, so just as the coronavirus was kind of making its way to the States, we were celebrating and rejoicing and getting to have this new little life in our family. But there's so much unknown even still. And simply put, anxiety is picturing or imagining our future without Jesus, without God on the throne. And that can lead to so much fear. That can lead to so many different emotions. And I hope that you hear me say that you're not alone if you're experiencing anxiety or if you are feeling a lot of fear in regards to everything that's going on. We've all experienced some sort of trauma in regards to 2020 and everything that's come with it, with the pandemic and the racial reckoning that our country is experiencing. There's been job loss and financial turmoil and loss of loved ones and changes of plans and just major disruptions to our life. And there's been so much anxiety that has stemmed from that. Obviously, they're still gathering data in response to everything that's going on this year, but a recent study shows that 60% of college students would say that they are either moderately, very, or extremely worried about their mental health. And I share that because I do not want you to feel alone. I think that this biggest scheme or lie that the enemy can tell us is that we are alone in our experiences, in our lived experiences. And it's just not true. We're not. No one is alone. My prayer for this week is that we could be just especially vulnerable and authentic with each other as we talk about this topic of anxiety. I've experienced it. I have dear friends that have experienced it. I know lots of college students that are walking with and battling anxiety right now. So my prayer as we dive into scripture and get to talk together this week is that we would just be vulnerable if we're not doing okay, or if this is a part of our past or it's something we're presently dealing with, that we would just be able to say that and be with each other in that. So like I said, anxiety is fear of the future. It's always future oriented, and it's believing the lie that Jesus is not already there with whatever we're worried about, with whatever we're dealing with, that he's not before us. We know that anxiety is a topic that people have dealt with their entire lives of all existence, because Jesus talks about it in the Bible. He mentions it in his very well-known Sermon on the Mount. He talks about it, Paul talks about it in other places in scripture. But we're going to hone in on Matthew 6. And chapter 6, verses 24 through 35, I believe, Jesus mentions anxiety a few times. He tells us to not be anxious because he even cares for the birds of the air and the lilies and the grasses of the field. He knows exactly what we need, and he wants to give it to us. He wants to take care of his kids. And we're going to talk more about the scripture in a few minutes in your groups, but I just wanted to briefly talk a little bit more about this idea of fact and faith and feelings. We can be rooted in the fact that God is God and we are not. All of Scripture is pointing to the fact that God is God, that he is in control, that he is powerful, he's sovereign, he's mighty. Even one of the most popular or most well-spoken of, most popular commands in the Bible is fear not. It's a fact that God does not want us to be fearful. It's a fact that he is who he says he is. And so out of that fact, we can rely on that truth, and we can operate in faith and not in fear. We can be rooted in his word as our compass. This is not at all to say that our feelings are invalid or that they are unimportant, because they are valid, they are important. But we can't let our feelings influence us. We can't let our feelings influence the way we experience God and his word and the way we operate and step out in faith. So to illustrate this, I have my 3-year-old's Lego train here. And I think every conductor of a train would tell you that it's not wise or helpful for the caboose to drive the train. It's just not. So if we have faith, and then in the middle we have, if we have fact, and then in the middle we have faith, and then over here we have feeling, I think we're prone as humans to want our feelings to drive the train. But in reality, feelings should be the caboose, and fact, and then faith, and then feeling should drive us. So I want us to remember that of course our feelings are still valid and our experiences are valid and they're important, but let's not let our feelings influence the way we experience God and others, the way that we step out in faith and operate and do the things that God is asking of us. I think it's a great temptation. So we're going to dive into Matthew 6 together. We're going to see what God has to say, what Jesus has to say about anxiety, and then we'll come back together and I'll close us. I hope that you had life-giving conversations and that you're able to be vulnerable with each other around this topic of anxiety. I hope that you feel closer, that you feel connected, that you feel that you just don't feel alone in this. I just want to offer some final little encouragement to you, especially those of you that are experiencing anxiety. When I heard the truth that God is before me, that he'll give me everything I need, it changed everything for me. But I still struggle. I still feel tempted. I still fail to want to believe that God is for me, that he is good, that he is already ahead of me in everything I experience. So let us remember that where we fail and when we fail, Jesus has already exceeded, and that's the gospel. He has succeeded in every way. He has overcome even our most very difficult situations because he loves us and he died for us. So there's nothing that Jesus cannot enter into and be with us. I urge you to not walk this road, this battle of anxiety by yourself. I think for a long time I tried to pull myself up by my bootstraps and conceal that I was always anxious or worried. I even would sometimes have physical reactions to my worry and anxiety. But in the last year and a half, I've met with a counselor once a week, and she helps me wade through the waters of the lies that I believe, where I'm giving the enemy a foothold, where I'm not believing truths about who Jesus is and what he does and what he has already overcome in my life. Let's just look to the cross and remember that Jesus died for all of our fear, for all of our worry, and for all of our anxiety. And there is no guilt or shame when we stay tucked in close to him. I just urge you to stay close to him, to stay close to community, to be connected to each other in the midst of this, and to remember to let the fact that Jesus is Lord, that he is who he says he is, that he is God and we are not, drive the train. Thanks for being with me this week, guys. I can't wait to hear how this topic or how these things stir us to be together and to continue to fight and battle lies together. Thanks, guys.